Right?
Yeah. So I have no clue. Sorry.
No. Don't go anywhere.
We're gonna do a take 3.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Here it is.
Help me.
Welcome back to The Move, where we are vibing with the book 10 minutes at a time.
The next 10 minutes are on Romans chapter 11, verses 11-24. Before we begin, hey, nice shirt.
Thank you. I sent you a text message this morning and told you not to wear black.
Yeah, that was probably a good thing. We've been matching the last couple of episodes, but
Let's not do that. No more.
All right, with that said, the question for you is,
have you read it?
Because if you haven't, you're gonna need to.
Yeah, so we'll wait for you right here as you go read it. Ready? Go.
And welcome back. 10 minutes on the clock, starting in 3, 2, 1.
So to be 100% transparent, this is our second take on this passage, precisely because our first take was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, we went to a verse where we're like, let's go here. And then we're both like, wait, why did we come here?
Yeah.
What are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
The verse that we're in question was verse 16, talking about dough and first fruits and lumps and roots and all these different kinds of things. And so let's kind of frame it to help us get to why is this analogy coming in?
Justin, are you going to frame?
We're going to frame it.
Justin, please frame.
We had a comment on one of our previous episodes that Jonathan missed his calling as a framer.
Yeah, somebody else said, we're going to call Jonathan Mr. Framer.
There you
So whoever that was, shout out. I'm
Shout
just
out.
Mr. Framer.
So the idea here that we get the sense is that there's this kind of us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
Gentiles versus Jews. Which one is God favoring? Clearly he favored the Jews at the beginning. It seems right. There's the air quote thing for those of you guys listening and not watching.
Yeah.
Then it seems like the Gentiles now have favor because they're the ones that are accepting Christ.
And now that they have favor, does that then mean that the first group, the Jews, are they completely cut off? Have they fallen? Have they stumbled into a fall that can't be you can't return from?
Right, and that's the language of verse 11. By no means. There still is hope.
So just because they stumbled doesn't mean that they're cast off.
Exactly. And so we see here there's this idea trading that, hey, if God is able to bring glory from when they fall, from when they reject, that God is good, people are able to experience salvation, how much more of a blessing would it be for them to turn and to come back?
Now, that's interesting because it upsets what I expect, right?
How so?
Because, okay, if there's $100, right, and you have $80 and I have 20, if you fall away from the $80 and then the $80 gets redistributed to me and now I have 100,
I can't just come back and get $80 from nothing.
well, yeah, I don't want to re-include you. Like, if you come back, I'm going to have to give you some of that money. So how is it that their inclusion actually means a good thing for me? Right?
Yeah. So I have no clue. Sorry.
No. Don't go anywhere.
We're gonna do a take 3.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Here it is.
Help me.
Here it is. It's that we're thinking in finite resources.
Yeah.
We think that the $100 actually,
That there's a limit.
that there's a limit.
Okay.
Right? And there isn't a limit.
So there's no limit to God's goodness. God doesn't have a limit of resourcing. It's not as though God is limited to only selecting one of the two people groups.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is kind of like the mistake that the Israelites made, thinking that, oh no, it's just us and not y'all. And God saying, no. I actually selected and gave the oracles and the covenants to y'all so that you could freely give them to the rest of the world. Remember when we talked about this, that what we are given, we are intended to give to others back at the beginning, Romans 2 or 3, right?
Right.
That when you receive the gift, it's meant to be giving, and you're hoarding it for yourself, you're actually robbing God. So that the Israelites, to some degree, hoarded it for themselves, but in hoarding it, they missed the whole point, which was Jesus, because they thought to some degree they were the point, but that's not the point. So that when they come back in, we see them not through finite resources, because the gospel is within us. We now see them through, yes, come back, come in. And as you come in, there is a great blessing for us Gentiles, because you, the Jews who have the covenants, will give us an expression of the majesty and the character of God that we ourselves weren't privy to because we're not Jews by nature, but God has included us and revealed things to us. And we know that if you come in, you're going to reveal to us even more, and it's just going to be awesome.
It's like me trying to understand Dominican culture.
Yes.
I could read about it in a book.
You could.
I could learn about it, go to a museum, but I'm not Dominican. So I can't actually understand the nuances and the beauty of just subtle things that it would completely go over my head.
Yeah.
And in the same sense, the Gentiles, yes, they've accepted the fullness of this message, but they might not be able to understand the subtleties and the beauty of all of it.
Yeah. So for this example, if you were included into Dominican culture and you began to experience it and you were accepted into it, but of course you weren't natural to it. If I come in and I'm immersed in my culture, and now I begin to teach you and tell you about what it means to be Dominican, right? All of a sudden, you're getting poured into even more of that which you already are.
Right.
Right? Right? So that in this way that we as Gentiles, we're grafted in.
Yeah.
We come from a wild olive shoot.
That's what he talks about towards the last part of this passage. Yeah.
And we're grafted in. How great will it be for us to have a greater revelation of what our inheritance is as we're taught by a natural member, right? Because that natural member is teaching us what we've been included in. It's not the natural member saying, so, hey, since you're new around here are the rules, this is how you have to behave because you need to watch out because we're the ones that are, no. It's, man, so happy you're here.
Check it out.
Check it out. Look how much is for you. This is yours. This is Paul's point in several places. He does it in Ephesians when he talks about this is the mystery that was hidden, that the Gentiles are co-participants, co-heirs in the promise of Abraham, right? So that them being returned is a blessing for us.
Yeah. Later in this passage, he talks about supporting the root or the root that supports you. We were talking about this in our first take when we failed, which we almost failed the second one.
No failure. Just opportunities for growth, baby.
That's right.
Opportunities for growth.
The common understanding that the root back in those days was what? The root was something, a part of their heritage that mattered a lot to them.
Yeah. As I understand it, this idea of the root, I think there's been an error at times where people believe that the roots are the nation itself.
The Jewishness embodied in its customs and its cultures. We see this kind of manifesting itself in certain senses where Gentile converts to Christianity were urged to become Jews in the snip parts and in the ritual parts. And there's a certain sense that, well, we're grafted in, therefore that means we got to be like you.
Yeah. And yet in the passage, the Jews are not the roots. They are natural branches.
So Jewishness, while there's a lot of value in it, that is not the core of it. That's not the essence of it. It's not as though that every believer in Christ then must become a Jew to be that.
I would argue that the roots are the promises given by God to his faithful believers. So that you see Abraham is the first one who believes and is counted to him as righteous. But that exchange, that reality of Abraham being a believer in the promise, this is the root, not because it's localized in Abraham's body via the snip, but it's localized in Abraham as a faithful recipient. This is why back in Romans chapter 4, Abraham is the father of the circumcised and uncircumcised because he's the father of both through faith.
Yeah.
This is the root. And in Galatians, Paul, again, Galatians, I think 3:23, that we're just a little bit before that, we are held captive to the law as a schoolmaster until faith himself came, right? Jesus, the author and perfecter of the faith, so that the root is the faith, the promise that is the very person of Jesus. It is the thing that we participate in by faith. It's the person we participate and live through by faith. That's the root.
And so the good news is that the Gentiles, you and I, have been grafted into the root being Jesus. But even though there's the reality of these other branches, the Jewish nation being chopped off, it's not as though that they've been chopped off and cast into the fire to be forsaken. That's the beginning of this passage. He's saying, no, even the original branches can be regrafted back into the root.
And we're actually grafted into the tree, right? Because from the root grows the tree. And the tree is the tree of righteousness, all that which God is accomplishing through Messiah, all that he's accomplishing through the child of promise. This is why he is the seed, a seed that grows into this righteous tree. And from that tree, there are branches, right? The nation was a branch. We're a wild branch that's grafted into the tree, right? That's being upheld by this root, so that we participate in all the benefits that emerge from that root system, that grow up into the righteousness that is this tree that has these great branches that then become the healing of the nations, if you catch what I'm laying down. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great thing, and I'm looking forward to the day where the natural branches are back in, because I want to hear more, experience it more, know more, and just dive deeper into the reality of what it means to have this inheritance.
Yeah.
So
definitely. Well, there you go. We'll give you 3 extra seconds for your day.
Well, for those 3 extra seconds, I want to point something out to our viewers. I want you to see that even in that moment when Justin's like, oh, man, let's think about this, that we come to this to explore the text authentically and honestly, just so you see that our exercise here is not something that we've pre-rehearsed, but it's just 2 guys that love the book, that love exploring it together, and we're just diving in, and we so appreciate you diving in with us. But I wanted to point out that moment right there is a moment of honesty, authenticity, and vulnerability, and that is the very thing that we're doing, just moving and vibing in the book. So we appreciate y'all journeying with us, and I would think that's an actual cool moment for y'all to see.
Well, there you guys go. Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right.